Now, one question that I want to pose today is why Commander Graves is so beloved. And I know that statement carries some weight because I know there's some of you that absolutely despise him or absolutely don't like him. And, he's a traitor. He betrayed Task Force 141. He was working for Shepard. And, this is like all these things about Commander Graves. But you can't deny, even though you make a statement like that, you can't deny that Graves has a certain appeal to a lot of the Call of Duty campaign followers. There's a lot of appeal to the character. There's a lot of love for the character. I mean, if you just Google his name, there's a bunch of like renders and arts created by a lot of you guys, by a lot of the fans, a lot of fan art, and storylines even that depict what he could have done or how he could have done things differently. There's a big conversation to be had around Commander Graves. Now, I will say that I'm probably one of the few channels that really covers Commander Graves a lot, and we end up making stories about him and things like that. And it's just because I like the character, I like the actor behind the character, and we've talked a little bit more about Warren Cole, the guy who plays Commander Graves. We have a whole video on him and his projects and what makes him so charismatic. But one of the big reasons that I think that people hold on to Commander Graves so much for this particular rebooted Modern Warfare trilogy is because of the lack of a US presence within this reboot. When we look at Modern Warfare 19, we had Alex. Alex was a fucking savage. I will always say this, and you guys know this. Alex is one of my favorite characters in the game. Alex Keller is awesome, and his appearance in Modern Warfare 19 was unique, was cool, really had this vibe of like, yeah, this guy is seasoned, this guy is ex-Delta, this guy is CIA. He is the real fucking deal, and you just had that familiarity with him if that's what you want. And so he carried a lot of that US presence. Then you had the Demon Dogs appear, and so the US presence was still a little bit there. But Alex ends up sacrificing himself and supposedly dying by the end of Modern Warfare 2019. Now, we know that they went back on that. They backpedaled. They brought him back to life, and they basically took one of his legs. So yeah, like the sacrifice and everything kind of almost meant nothing. But then you look at Modern Warfare 2, and then it's heavily focused on the Special Air Service and Task Force 141 expanding. You have SOAP, you have Ghost, you have Price, and you have Gas. So it's a big focus on them. And then you had a big focus on the Mexican Special Forces with Alejandro Vargas, Rudy, and the rest of his Los Vaqueros unit. So there was a big focus on there as well. So a lot of people are asking themselves while you're playing the game, okay, where is this American element? Where is Alex? Where are the Demon Dogs? Can they assist? Can they do something to help? They don't appear. They don't come out. And then you introduce this really cool, charismatic character. He says he's part of a private military company. He has the US flag patch right on his chest, and the guy is this ex-Marine guy, this ex-Marine raider who clearly knows what he's doing. He's the commander of the Shadow Company, and he just looks cool, and he just sounds cool, and he just has that I'm gonna get this shit done type of attitude. So I think you have this soldier who's in command, who has his own company, who is American, and a lot of people were like, okay, let's kind of gravitate towards him. And he seems like a good guy, and he seems like he's helping the team. He seems like he's on the same goal. So it's like, okay, you know what? We can play as Commander Graves and his unit, and it gives us an opportunity to do things a little bit more in the gray area, like how Captain Price had talked about in Modern Warfare 2019. He says that sometimes you gotta blur the line. Well, the PMC run by Commander Graves can definitely blur the line a lot more. Then you had him have conversations with Alejandro, Ghost, and Soap on the rooftop, and Graves seemed like he was down to help you out. He said, don't worry, we can take care of it. Here's a patch. Like, he was your friend, and so you gravitated towards him. And I think that the betrayal of Graves felt so underwhelming, felt just thrown in there for shock value, and it pissed so many people off because Graves seemed like a good guy who was really down to help you out, and you could have counted on him for a long time and for a lot of different things in this entire Modern Warfare game. You could have expanded his story to be even better in Modern Warfare 2, and his return in Modern Warfare 3 could have been to help the good guys, to help get Makarov, and maybe he would experience some losses against Makarov, and it would have been even better. But I think that the point is that there is a lack of the American element in this Modern Warfare trilogy. And if you look at the original Modern Warfare trilogy, I mean, hell, you had the Marines, you had the Rangers, you had a bunch of different US military servicemen coming in and helping. You had Delta Force. It wasn't just the Special Air Service show. It was, yes, of course, you had Price throughout the entirety of the game, and many can say, okay, he's probably the main character, but you had a big presence of a lot of other US personnel, and then you had some and that's not even talking about the other elements that were in the game as well. But my point is, okay, to really center this, the point is that I think so many people loved Graves, so many people gravitated towards Graves, and I think there's such a fandom behind Graves because there's not enough US element in the game. Now, like, imagine if in Modern Warfare 3, the game had, like, let's say 10 missions, and 5 of those missions were the Special Air Service, and another 5 was you working as Delta Force. And you had this unit of like 6 guys, and they were all Delta, they were all American, and they kind of came from different backgrounds, different personalities, and they were just cool as fuck, and you could get behind them, right? Like you did in Modern Warfare 3 with the Delta unit. There is a lot that could have been done with those characters making an appearance, or some of those characters coming back in a rebooted version. It doesn't mean that you would have pushed Graves to the side, or a lot of people would have forgotten about Graves, but if there would have been more of that American element, more of that, oh, I can connect to that guy, or oh, yes, that's kind of what I wanted to see, then there wouldn't be so much love like centered directly at Graves, where a lot of you people think it's like, well, Graves is a villain, Graves is a bad guy, Graves created war crimes, Graves did all these things. How can you fucking like him? You guys just like him because of his personality or whatever the hell. But it's maybe because you just get attached to that type of vibe of character. So again, I had that with Alex in Modern Warfare 19. Then you had that in MW2 with Graves, but then he turned out to be bad. And then in Modern Warfare 3, there wasn't really anything there. Alex makes an appearance, but Alex isn't even the same Alex that we know and love. That Alex was a lot more side character, and that really fucking sucked. So I think if the Modern Warfare rebooted trilogy would have had more of the American element in the game, whether that be with Delta or any other, special force operator unit, and it would have introduced some really cool characters, then more love and more attention would have gone to them. Right? And so that's why I actually think that Graves is so popular, because the American element in this Modern Warfare rebooted trilogy is just so low, it's just so minimal, and the few characters that do come in, they disappear after one mission. Like they're never seen again. So I really do believe that's why Graves became so popular, because there wasn't enough of the US military presence. I really, really believe that. It's just Graves is something different that I think a lot of people wanted and or needed to get a little bit away from the Special Air Service and Ghost Price, Soap, and Gasno, and that whole unit. But maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe that's not entirely why, but it was just a thought that came to me, and I was like, you know what? This seems like it could be why, because let's think about this. If in Modern Warfare 4, you bring in this new unit, and let's say they're Delta, and maybe you bring back Sandman, Frost, and all those guys, there might be a big love for them and a big attention for them that a lot of people might not even be thinking about Graves, because now you have something else. You have even more Americans that are trying to do a good job, that are trying to do the right thing, and maybe a lot of that attention gets shifted to them. But yeah, that's kind of like what I think. What about you? Do you think that's why Commander Graves became so beloved, or is there another reason?